Three players have reached the final stages in their battle of knowledge and strategy. A contest that will bring the victor thousands of dollars in cash awards. Stand by as we start the final matches of our Tournament of Champions here on The Challengers. And now, here is your master of the challenge, Dick Clark.
Thank you, Don Morrow, very much. I've been waiting for you three guys. This is going to be exciting. Welcome to the Challengers. Three competitors remain as we start a two-day match to determine the winner of our tournament. And before we begin, let's see how much money we've deposited into your personal Citibank Visa accounts. Russell, you got $9,150 over the last 3 days. What did you come in here with prior to that?
$66,830.
The pains. Gene, you have $7,010 as of this week. Prior to that, what was it?
$29,400.
Not a bad total at all. And Stan, this is sort of a respite for you. You come back on Monday and play again anyway in the normal game, but you picked up $1,350 so far. Where are you with your winning?
Oh, $22,000, an odd number of bucks.
And moving up. All right, gentlemen, good luck to all of you. Of course, the cash you earn and all the benefits that go into your accounts are yours to keep. I've said that before. I'll say it again. And let's clear out all of these monies and remind you that these are yours, that we're not taking it away. We're just putting it over here because we're going to start from scratch in a second. We'll add your two-day totals from today and tomorrow to determine the winner, and the champion will earn an additional $25,000. Good luck, gentlemen. In just a moment, I'll reveal the categories for our first half of play. First of all, we'll play the sprint round for control of the game. You know how that starts. We'll put that $200 up there. All of the money you have, of course, is still yours. This is just for the score-keeping for this particular portion of the game, the player with the most money at the end of the sprint. We'll have the first selection of the category board, and if you're all set to play, we'll put a minute up there on the clock and get underway. Here we go. England's Queen Elizabeth will visit the U.S. next year, accompanied by her husband, the Duke of what? Stan?
Windsor.
No, sir, Edinburgh. Oh. If you were vacationing at Montego Bay, you'd be visiting what Caribbean island? Gene?
Jamaica.
Correct. The Hunchback of Notre Dame was written by Victor Hugo. Name the Hunchback. Gene?
Quasimodo.
Correct. Name the all-girl group currently on a reunion tour featuring singers Jane Wheatland and Belinda Carlisle. Stan?
The Cars.
I'm sorry?
The Cars.
No, the Go-Go's. Serving as honorary chairman of the Clown Hall of Fame will be Bob Keeshan, better known as Captain what? Gene?
Captain Kangaroo.
Correct. The Israelites' escape from Egypt is described in what book of the Bible? Stan?
Exodus.
Correct. William French Smith passed away recently. What cabinet post did he hold under President Reagan? Gene?
Attorney General.
Correct. $2 billion is a lot of money, and that's what was lost last quarter by what automotive company? Russell?
Chrysler.
No, sir. General Motors. The Latin word, I'll finish this one. You all may have a shot at it. The Latin word for small dish is given to the bone we call the kneecap. What's that word? Gene?
Patella.
Patella is right, and you got it in a runaway. That gives you the choice over there. That money in your account is yours to keep, of course, and you have control of the game. If you're all ready to go, here we go with TV talkers, news briefs, Latin phrases, kitty lit, fashion models, and showbiz update.
Let's try Latin phrases.
Latin phrases it is. For $150 we have in school, in the military, and in time. The greater the value, the tougher the question, of course. They've all placed their wagers for $200, Stan and Russell. What Latin phrase meaning always faithful serves as the motto of the U.S. Marines? Russell.
Semper Fidelis.
Correct. For $250, Gene. We've all heard about trout flies and fruit flies, but what Latin phrase means time flies?
Tempus fugit.
That is right, sir. For $250, you still control the game, and the subjects are TV talkers, news briefs, kitty lit, fashion models, and showbiz update.
Let's try news briefs.
News briefs, all right? We have television, the art world, and air travel, gentlemen. Up for your grabs there. Wager. All right, for $150, Stan and Russell. Television. Set to begin production in the spring is a new version of a TV show whose setting is a Cincinnati radio station. What are the station's call letters? Stan?
WKRP.
That's right, for $250, Gene. Lufthansa has become the 6th Western air carrier to offer service to the former capital city of South Vietnam, I beg your pardon, now known as what?
Ho Chi Minh City.
That is correct for $250. Gene, your selection of choices will continue, but that little sound there tells us we're going to remind you that from November 11th to November 17th, we have National Geography Awareness Week. Might have a couple of geography questions, who knows? But I do know one thing, we'll have a lot of questions coming up as the Challengers continue. Well, Gene, you can't feel too comfortable about that. You know this game better than that. You are ahead at $1,200, but the other guys are coming along right fast behind. So let's turn back once again to the board. Gene, it's your choice.
Let's try Showbiz Update.
Showbiz Update for $150. Movies, Broadway, and music are the choices. It's time to wager, gentlemen. All right, everybody gets a question this time for $150. Gene, sisters Vanessa and Lynn Redgrave have teamed up for a TV movie remake of a classic film. Name this movie that originally starred Betty Davis and Joan Crawford.
Whatever Happened to Baby Jane?
That's worth $150 for 200, Stan. Recently, performances began on Broadway of the rock musical titled Buddy. The musical is the story of what rock legend?
Holly.
Correct, for 200. For 250, Russell. Just released is a new album of music supposedly written by a fictional composer who is the brainchild of Peter Schickele. Name that fictional composer.
PDQ Bach.
You are absolutely right. Boy, you guys know your showbiz. Russell, TV Talkers, Kitty Litter, fashion models.
Let's go with TV Talkers.
TV Talkers. We have Letterman, Geraldo, and Sally as the talkers for your choice. Make a wager, please. All right, everybody gets a question this time. Gene, for $150. One of David Letterman's frequent guests is a man named Larry Melman. What's his nickname?
Bud.
Bud's right for $150 for 2, Stan. Geraldo Rivera has written a book subtitled Island of Contrast, a tribute to an island he calls his second home. Name the island, you name the book.
Puerto Rico.
That is correct for 200. Russell for 250. When Sally Jesse Raphael began her syndicated talk show in 1983, it was originally broadcast from what city?
Hartford.
St. Louis. She moved to New York City last year, and I think maybe she made a stop in Hartford along the way. In any case, Stan, you have control, choice of 2.
I'd like to take a look at some fashion models, Dick.
Fashion models, all right. 1980s, 1960s, 1940s. Those are your choices. All right, 2 of you, Gene and Russell, going for the $200 1960s question. What's the professional nickname of the top 1960s fashion model whose real name is Leslie Hornby? Gene?
Twiggy.
Twiggy's right for $200. Stan for $250. Name the top fashion model of the 1940s who made her screen debut in the movie To Have and to Have Not and later married Humphrey Bogart.
Bacall.
Lauren Bacall is correct for $250. Last one is Kitty Litt. Gentlemen, the questions deal with, for $150, rhymes and books and poetry. Please wager. All right, for $150, Gene, in the nursery rhyme called Sing a Song of Sixpence, the king was in the counting house counting out his money. Where was the queen?
In the kitchen eating milk and honey.
Oh, boy, you good at rhymes, but bad on answers. In the parlor eating bread and honey. A real nice try, though. All right, Stan and Russell for $250. Name the man who wrote the poetry collection A Child's Garden of Verses and the historical romance Kidnapped. Stan?
Stevenson.
Stevenson is right. Robert Louis Stevenson. And that rounds this one up. Pretty good. Russell, you got to do a little catching up, I'm afraid, but that'll happen in the next round. We'll double the value of the questions, and the whole thing turns around here on the Challenger.
News and current events questions are verified by Newsweek magazine. And now, let's get back to the Challengers.
Thank you, Don. Everything's in order. We're ready to roll. We'll check the accounts here. Gene, you're out in front with $1,550. Stan, close behind, $1,150. Russell, not so close. But you can take care of that as we double the value of the questions here. Here are the 6 categories, gentlemen. Check them out. We've got Big Macs, world literature, dirty movies, classical music, famous last lines, what's new? And it's up to you, Stan.
I'd like to hear some classical music.
Classical music. All right, for $300, we have Chopin, Tchaikovsky, and Wagner. And if you will, please, gentlemen, place a wager. All right, for $300, Gene, the Chopin question. Although Frédéric Chopin's name is French, his music, especially those pieces called polonaises, celebrate his homeland. In what country was Chopin born?
Poland.
Poland is right for $300. Russell and Stan for 4. The music of Russian composer Tchaikovsky is heard each December by audiences at what popular Christmas ballet? Stan?
The Nutcracker.
That is right for $400. Stan?
Well, I'd like to see some dirty movies.
You want to say that? You want to say that on television? Now, you may be disappointed. Dirty Harry, Dirty Dancing, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Those are our dirty movies, gentlemen. Place your wager. All right, let's go for the $300 question here. Everybody gets one. Gene, for Dirty Harry. It was the first of 5 films starring Clint Eastwood as a renegade San Francisco cop. What is Dirty Harry's last name?
Callahan.
Callahan's right for $400, Stan. The 1987 hit movie Dirty Dancing starred Patrick Swayze as a dance instructor who taught a vacationing teenage girl about more than just dancing. Who played the girl?
Gray.
Jennifer Grey is correct for $400. Russell for 5. The 1988 film Dirty Rotten Scoundrels starred Michael Caine and Steve Martin. It was a remake of a 1964 film, Bedtime Story, starring David Niven, and who was the American actor?
Marlon Brando.
You were right, sir, for $500, and you have the choice of the last 4.
Famous last lines, Dick.
Famous last lines, $300. We have gothic romance, mainstream fiction, and experimental fiction. Gentlemen, wagering time. All right, for $300, Russell. He was soon borne away by the waves and lost in the darkness and distance. This is the last we see of the creature in what novel by Mary Shelley?
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein's right for $300. Gene and Stan for 4. Listen to this last line. So we beat on boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. The author of that last line was F. Scott Fitzgerald. What's the book? Judge, is there time for that answer?
Yes, he can answer.
The Great Gatsby.
That is right, sir, for $400. You take control, Gene. We have 3 questions.
Let's try Big Max.
Big Max, and they deal with MacArthur, Macbeth, and Machiavelli. Gentlemen? All right, 2 of you going for the $400 Macbeth question. That'll be Russell and Gene. Stand by. In Shakespeare's play, Macbeth murders King Duncan. Who kills Macbeth? Russell?
Banquo.
No, sir. I'm sorry, it was Macduff. That'll cost you $400. Stan for $500. Political theorist Machiavelli is known for his look at the uses of power in his book, The Prince. The book is dedicated to a member of what Florentine family?
The Medici.
That is right for $500. And Stan, we have 2 subjects left. Which one
What's
do you
new?
want? What's new? All right. For $300, the New Testament, New York Stories, and New Brunswick. A little potpourri of goodies there. And what's new? And so far, we have 2 of you going for the $400 question. In a moment, Stan and Russell stand by. We'll go with Gene's $300 one first. Which of the 4 Gospels is the first book of the New Testament?
Matthew.
Matthew is right for $300. Russell and Stan for 4. The film, New York Stories, is a movie in 3 parts, each by a different director. The directors are Francis Coppola, Woody Allen, and whom? Stan.
Scorsese.
That is correct, Martin Scorsese. And that tells us that we have 1 subject left here. Let's reveal the contents. We have, for $300, biography, drama, and poetry. Betting time, gentlemen. All right, for $300, Stan. A record of the life and witty conversations of English writer Samuel Johnson, published in 1791, is considered one of the world's great biographies. Who was the biographer?
Boswell.
That is correct for $300. Russell and Gene for 4. Name the Greek playwright whose masterful works include the clouds, the frogs, and the birds. Gene?
Aristophanes.
You're right for $400, and there you are. Congratulations, and that sound tells us we're about ready to move into our final challenge round. The final challenge category is Notable Americans. And check what we have going here. We have 2 men with $3,000 and more in the bank. Russell,
what do we do?
You got to do some fancy dancing when we come back. See if you can corner these guys over here. And it's happened before, and it could happen again. We'll be back in just a moment.
All players today receive a Citibank Visa account with all the distinct benefits and exclusive services that make it America's most widely used Visa card. And now, back to the final challenge. And here's your host, Dick Clark.
It's going to be quite a race now. Guys, I want to remind you once again, this is a two-day event. So, Russell, even at $700, you're not out of this for today or tomorrow. It's 2 days coming up here. And the final challenge category today is Notable Americans. Let's check them out and see what we have. The first one, Jane Addams at even odds. You'll double your wager on Rachel Carson, triple it on Carl Menninger, and I should say Menninger or Menninger, whichever you prefer. Gentlemen, think about it very carefully. Russell's the one that's going to have to be very clever in what he does here, and it's not impossible for him to come out of this thing. You'll have 15 seconds, and the challenge is now yours. All of our players' choices have been locked in. We're going to start, let's see, I guess with low man over here. Russell, you got your $700. All of it's yours to keep, as we always say, but you have the right to play it any way you want. How did you do it?
Dick, these guys are fantastic players, and I figured I'd stay out of their way and take even the Jane Addams question for $700.
Oh, that's an interesting way to play it out. Stan, you have $3,150. What was your strategy?
Well, there's no book that covers the strategy for this situation, but sorry, Russell, I went for Jane Addams for $31.45.
Oh. Kept everything but $5, takes the bet away from you for the moment. We don't know. Maybe Gene can, he's got more money, he can do the same. What are you going to do, sir?
Well, I thought I'd be beating Stan out, but he went for Jane Addams. I went for Rachel Carson for $3,155.
Oh, you can see how they played the little edges. Interesting thing about this, Russell, is if they fail, you're going to be the winner. Now, I don't know what the odds are. These are pretty stiff competitors, but we'll see in a second. By the way, there will be no winner today because we're going to hold the monies you win today, and when tomorrow's game is completed, we'll add your two-day totals to determine the champions. All right. Let's go, first of all, to Stan. On the Jane Addams question here, you gambled $3,145 at even odds, a grand total of $6,295. Jane Addams's causes were many: labor laws, unemployment, insurance, civil liberties. But this Nobel Peace Prize winner's monument was a Chicago settlement house for the immigrant poor. For $6,295, name that settlement house.
Hull House.
All right, I knew when you smiled you were comfortable with that one. Russell, that means today it's over, but there's always tomorrow. It's a two-day game. Now, Gene, this is your situation. You put up $3,155, 2 times the odds. The grand total is $9,560. Obviously, if you get this one, you're the champion of the day. You'll have gotten the most money. Rachel Carson, marine biologist, described the chemistry, biology, geography, and history of the sea in her book, The Sea Around Us. For $9,560, in what 1962 book did she call attention to the wasteful and destructive use of pesticides?
Silent Spring.
You're absolutely right. You're the champ of the day. You won $9,560. Gentlemen, I'll remind you again, it isn't over. You got a lead, Gene, and it's a very exciting finish going to be coming up tomorrow. Russell, you're still in the race because it's a two-day event, and we've got the best players on board. So if you can, spread the word, tell a friend or a neighbor. Tomorrow's the day to watch the challengers. You're watching the cream of the crop. You guys are great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you tomorrow on the challengers. For now, Dick Clark.
Soar to the ends of the universe on Star Trek: The Next Generation this afternoon at 4. Today, the crew gets gassed by a deadly contaminant in The Naked Now. Coming up, they're not naked, well, almost not naked, but they sure are hot. That's the people from The Young and the Restless. Next.
Now there's a new way to clean your dentures. Dentufoam, the deep cleaning of a tap at the speed of a toothpaste. New Dentufoam. And new Niagara Professional Finish Heavy Spray Starch for that fresh from the cleaner's look. And Ferrero Rocher, the nutty, crunchy, smooth, and crispy milk chocolate experience. With Ferrero Rocher, expect the unexpected. This is Don Morrow speaking. The Challengers is a Ron Greenberg production in association with Dick Clark Productions.